I'm Belle from Gardening Express, and this is part 2 of garden design. So if you watched part 1, then you'll know about undertaking a survey for your garden, and once you've done this, we can start thinking about design elements and principles. The first garden design element to think about is the line. Lines can create movement in your garden and determine the overall feel of the space. Using more straight lines can make your garden more formal, but using more curved lines can make a garden feel more organic and natural looking. Another element that you can use in your garden is shape. So you can use different shapes to add some structure and visual interest in your garden. Just like with the lines, you can use different shapes to make it more formal or more natural and organic. So geometric shapes like circles and squares can make your garden feel more formal, and more free-flowing shapes, more organic shapes can make it look a bit more natural. Colour is another design element to use in your garden. It's a good idea to pick out a colour scheme that fits with the type of vibe you want in your garden. If you've got loads of colours that clash with each other, it might look a bit overwhelming. The good news is that if you want some contrast, white flowers will go with any colour while adding some distinction. Next, let's talk about textures. Mixing up different textures can add some depth to your garden. Using a mixture of bold and delicate textures can prevent it from looking overwhelming or overly flat. For example, ornamental grasses are great for some finer textures, and plants like hostas or camellias are great to add some boldness. The last design element for us to cover is patterns. This is where you can add some personality to your garden. A pattern that repeats in different areas of your garden can make it feel tidy and cohesive. If you're using more than one type of pattern, make sure they work together, or it could start feeling a bit chaotic. So now that we've covered all of the design elements, let's talk about the principles. Firstly, unity. We've already covered this a bit with colours and patterns, but essentially you want some consistency in your garden so that it feels like one cohesive space. You might want to learn about different garden styles and stick to one, like cottage or Mediterranean gardens. Another thing to consider is balance. It's good to distribute the elements of your garden evenly. Avoid having all your plants on one side and none on the other. If you can only plant in the ground on one side of your garden, you could always use potted plants to balance it out. You should also consider having a focal point in your garden. If you've got a water feature, a sculpture, or a sizable unique plant or tree, you could use this as a focal point and arrange the other elements of your garden around it. The last design principle we'll cover today is proportion. Make sure to use elements that are in proportion to your garden. If you've got a smaller garden with a giant tree, that might be a bit overwhelming and unbalanced. On the other end of the spectrum, a bigger garden with only small plants could look flat or cluttered. We're going to wrap up our introduction to garden design in part 3, so if you're following along, make sure to check that one out. Thank you for watching and enjoy your garden.